Over the years, the Souza Baranowski maximum security prison in Shirley has had its share of trouble, making headlines for a riot in 2017, the suicide of Aaron Hernandez a few months later, and a number of attacks, including one last August that put 5 corrections officers in the hospital. Yesterday, prison officials say an inmate grabbed a correction officer's arm through the food slot in his cell door and assaulted her with an unknown liquid. Then when she pulled her arm away, the inmate started setting items in his cell on fire. The incident's still under investigation, but it comes as the facility is under a microscope over its response to another altercation last month. Prison officials say a corrections officer was severely hurt after a group of inmates attacked on January 10th, also injuring 2 other guards who came to help. The entire prison was on lockdown for days after that attack. Officials say the extra security measures were gradually lifted over the next few weeks, but prisoner advocates and lawyers for some Souza Baranowski inmates argue the response went much too far. In a lawsuit filed last week, they accused guards of a, quote, lawless and inhumane crackdown, including, quote, unprovoked violent assaults, unquote, against inmates who were denied access to legal paperwork and phone calls to their lawyers. They also say the extended lockdown kept every inmate in the north side of the prison inside their cells for all but 15 minutes a day. I'm joined now by Elizabeth Matos, the Executive Director of Prisoners Legal Services. Elizabeth, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Let me start by asking you, since the world of this particular prison and prison in general is so unfamiliar to so many of us, can you describe what this facility looks like, what it feels like inside, maybe the way it's laid out with different prisoners in different sections?
Sure. So it's a maximum security facility, the only one we have in Massachusetts, actually. It's located in Shirley, Massachusetts. The prison, when you go through a metal detector and you have to go through a trap in order to go visit clients.
Is a trap the sort of airlocked section? Or tell me what a trap is.
It is. So there's a huge metal door, and after you've been cleared, then you are able to walk down to the area where you visit clients or you visit your loved ones if you're going for a personal visit. The facility is divided into a north side and a south side. Right now, the south side has somewhat more privileges than the north side. The north side is typically where they say they have more gang-affiliated prisoners.
So the north side is where there's more gang-affiliated prisoners. Is it just about the offense that you're in there for, or is it also about your behavior or your disciplinary record while you're in that determines where you go?
So it's a mix. So there are people there who are doing life sentences, but there are people who are doing life sentences in medium security facilities and all kinds of facilities across the state. There are people there who have, quote-unquote, violent offenses on their records, but there are people who are there for low-level drug crimes as well. So part of that has to do with your disciplinary history, and part of that just has to do with how the DOC classifies people.
Okay, thank you. I think, again, for the general public, with that rundown that I read at the outset, they hear stories about prisoners behaving violently toward each other, behaving violently toward prison guards. Also, prisoners saying that they have been targeted violently for no good reason. How can those of us who are on the outside, who don't know this world the way you do, sort out what is actually happening and whether it is worrisome?
Sure. I think it is worrisome, and we should all be paying attention to what's going on there for a number of reasons. Well, first, I just want to say we all condemn what happened on January 10th, which is the incident that was shown on the video.
This is, oh, right.
Where the officers were injured. And we condemn all violence going on in prisons because it's not helpful for anyone. But what happened in the aftermath was, by all accounts, a massive retaliation against prisoners for that specific incident. And the individuals that were directly involved in that incident were immediately shipped out of the prison. And the retaliation that happened afterwards was indiscriminate, basically, against a large number of people. Just to give you a sense of that, in the last month, we've had 92 reports just from that prison of assaults of staff on prisoners. 92
reports of staff on prisoner assault?
And that's, just to give you more context, that's twice as much as we received in the entire prior year from that one facility. It was 44. From January 2019 to January 2020, and in the last month, we've received 92.
That's a shocking number as you break it down that way. Can you just describe a little more what type of assaults we're talking about here? Is this staff striking prisoners, staff, I think I may have read something about guards sending dogs to attack prisoners, but can you flesh that out a little?
I can. So what we've heard, so we've interviewed a majority of those people already, individually interviewed them at the prison. And we've heard very consistent reports of prisoners being just locked in their cells because during that 2-week period, they were on 24-hour lockdown. And what the majority of people are expressing is that they were locked into their cells doing nothing that was breaking a rule or anything that warranted a move team to come in. But what happened is what they call a tactical team. A number of men, 5 to 10 in some cases, suited up in what they call riot gear, storming into the cell and saying, "Put your hands up," and they would start doing that and be shot with mace guns and have dogs.
After complying with what
after
they've been ordered to do.
complying or in the process of complying, and also be tased multiple times. So these are not run-of-the-mill activities that happen. Definitely there are assaults that happen on a regular basis on prisoners. I've already explained we have this brutality project in our office for that reason, but this level of systematic retaliation and systematic assaults on prisoners in retaliation for these injuries is not normal.
I should mention that we would have loved to get someone from the Department of Corrections on the show to talk with you about this. Instead, what we have is a statement. I want to read it now. The Department of Corrections told us at Greater Boston, quote, "The department's filings in this lawsuit demonstrate that over 100 attorney visits have taken place since the attacks and that they continue on a daily basis. Inmates have had access to their incoming and outgoing mail and made all scheduled court appearances. Inmates also have access to phone service, which was suspended only in the wake of the attacks while officers worked to stop further violence. The department continues to provide inmates with safe access to their attorneys and legal materials, and it will vigorously defend the Commonwealth's actions and decisions necessary to protect staff, inmates, and visitors at the Commonwealth's only maximum security prison." A lot of stuff in there. What's your initial response?
So the initial response is that the access is happening now, right? I think after the 31st is when most people started getting access back. The attorney visits were reestablished around the 24th, fully reestablished attorney access. But I will say the brutality project that we have a focus on Sousa Baranowski Prison and on Walpole Prison, where most of the assaults get reported to us from. Our protocol in the office is to try and get out there within 48 to 72 hours to document those assaults, including photographing injuries. We were effectively prohibited from doing that. And the evidence will be compromised as a result because we were not allowed access into the facility. And the majority of these assaults that are being reported to us happened on the 22nd and 23rd of January, and we were not allowed access. We were calling every day. The first day we were told we were allowed access was the 24th of January.
And my assumption, oh, sorry, go ahead, 24th of January.
Right, which is 48 to 72 hours after.
And that's unusual.
It is very unusual to be locked down for that period of time.
Elizabeth Matos, we have to leave it here. Thank you for taking the time to come in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.